Donna Feazell, your host of Afternoon Drive Home on WBSA Radio, the best sound around total Christian radio on the dial at 1300 AM and 93.5 FM. My purpose is to help you grow your business. The platform for Afternoon Drive Home is to showcase your business with our awesome audience covering 9 counties. For the best news about our local community, state, national news, and updates on weather, listen Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Listen to all our great programming, including Call and Tell and Bible Trivia with Chris Watkins and Beecher Hyde, local obituaries and announcements with Don Templeton, Afternoon Drive Home and Prayer Hour with James Cornelius, as well as all your favorite Southern Gospel and Bluegrass music. Call 256-659-4319 or 256-593-4264. Let's get your business notice. Customer testimonials are available upon request. H&H Printing in Albertville, the place for all your printing needs. We offer the latest in state-of-the-art digital color and offset printing. From business cards and forms for your business to flyers and invitations for your home, H&H has you covered. H&H now offers wide format printing for yard signs, vinyl banners, posters, and more. Give H&H a call at 256-878-8829 or stop by our office at 9001 Highway 431 in Albertville. H&H Printing, quality printing at competitive prices.
If you are looking for a church where you are free to worship as the Lord leads, then the Antioch Missionary Baptist Church on 1st Street in Albertville extends an invitation to you and your family. Sunday school at 9:45, Sunday morning worship at 11, Sunday night training union at 5 o'clock, Sunday night worship at 6 o'clock, and Wednesday night prayer meeting at 6:30. That's the Antioch Missionary Baptist Church located on 1st Street in Albertville.
At Boaz Gun and Pawn, you can borrow money today on your items of value without having to sell them. If you think you might miss your special something or it has sentimental value, you can get your items back after you pay off your loan. Our prices are affordable even on big-ticket items such as guns, gold, diamonds, and fine jewelry. Shop our great selection and see for yourself why so many Sand Mountain residents make our business their pawn shop of choice. While our specialty is jewelry and firearms, we do loan and sell on other items such as musical instruments, video game systems, and select electronics such as computers or digital cameras. And don't forget tools. You can feel confident about your selection and comfort in selecting your new treasures. Go to Boaz Gun and Pawn, located at 100 Elizabeth Street in Boaz, across from the bowling alley in Grumpy. Meet owner Medina Green and feel welcome in the store right at the start with Gracie the Greeter. You can call us at 256-281-6181. We are closed on Sunday for church and Monday to recoup. Check out K&M Trading Post in Albertville. You never know what you will find. You would have to visit dozens of different retail stores to find all the different kinds of merchandise we have in this single shop. We have jewelry, silver, watches, stereos, sporting goods, cameras, musical instruments, tools, TVs, computers, bikes, furniture, and much, much more. It's almost like going to a fun treasure hunt. K&M Trading Post is a great way to shop if you're looking to buy hidden treasures or that one-of-a-kind gift item for that special person. We add new items daily and we will be happy to search a particular item just for you. Come by and see our friendly, helpful staff. We are easy to find at 3683 Highway 431 in Albertville, right before Industrial Drive in Boaz. We are open Thursday through Saturday, 9 to 6 p.m., and we appreciate your business. Good afternoon. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home. Thank you for listening to us every day, Monday through Friday, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. If you're out there kind of doing a little bit of gazing at the eclipse, I'm going to beg you not to do that. I've chosen not to do that even with glasses. I don't know, too many warning signs out there. But, look at it on television. You can go to the Weather Channel, and you can find it that way as well. So everybody be careful out there. If you're going to have some parties, don't celebrate too much. You got to get back to work, okay? Remember that. Thank you again for listening to us every day, Monday through Friday. Listen to us online at WBSAAM.com, and you can also listen to us on your iPhone. Go ahead and download the app, Simple Radio. Simple Radio, and type in WBSA. That's WBSA. And so you'll be able to listen to us that way. Make sure you listen every morning to Call and Tell with Chris Watkins and Beecher Hyde. Those guys are awesome. So much fun to listen to them. And also Dawn Templeton at 11 o'clock as she talks with you about the local obituaries. And also coming up at 2 o'clock, Mr. James Cornelius. He's on the air from 2 to 6. So I think we have a great lineup. I tell you what, it's a lot of fun here at this station. By the way, happy anniversary to Rod and Emily Morrison. They're from Gadsden. They've been married 42 years. Won 2 gift cards from Santa Fe Cattle Company, either in the Albertville or Fort Payne location. Now, the Anniversary Club is sponsored to you by the law offices of Marcy Foster. And the anniversary cake is furnished to you by the Albertville Home Bakery. Also, congratulations, date night to David and Susan Campbell. They won a $25 gift card from Applebee's in Guntersville. And Christy Deer from Geraldine won a $20 gift certificate to Vintage 1889. Now, the date night contest is sponsored to you by Serenity Place, Assisted Living, and Memory Care. Now, you can call their administrator, Angie Tate, at 256-979-1616. And remember now, the drawing will always be on Thursday, so you can go ahead and send us if you have someone that deserves a date night, wedding anniversary coming up, send those to my email address. That's Donna at afternoondrivehome.com. Donna at afternoondrivehome.com. You can also give me a call or send a text directly to my cell phone. That's 256-659-4319. 256-659-4319. Coming up at 1:30, we're going to have Leanna Dillbeck. Now, she's the RN BSN director of the Women's Care Center. You know, my favorite hospital, Marshall Medical Center South, right here, just right down the road from us. And some fine folks there. I'm going by tomorrow to pick up my x-rays, see how everything's going with that. And just very nice, caring people. Didn't know who I was when I walked in, said I need x-rays. And just very nice, very gentle, walked me through, told me all about it, what to expect, and that kind of thing. And that's what you want in your hospital. And you know, it's owned by you in this community. So check them out. I promise you they'll take good care of you. In just a couple of seconds, we're going to have Mr. Alan Mendenhall, Associate Dean at Faulkner University, Thomas Good Jones School of Law, Executive Director of the Blackstone and Burke Center for Law and Liberty. Some very interesting questions for him that some of you have sent in, and we appreciate that as well. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and talk to him right now. We've got lots and lots of things we need to talk about. Wow. It's good to have you, Alan. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead. I just had a question for you, okay? And
okay.
If this is uncomfortable, which I don't think it would be to you, just say so. How do lawyers get rich at the expense of everyone else?
Okay.
How do you like that for a question?
That's a good question. Well, it's actually, there's an old history to that. During the medieval period, there were things called guilds, and these were associations of merchants and artisans that came together to ensure that they had a monopoly over the services in their profession. Mm-hmm. And that practice has continued into the present day in the form of bar associations. So just to put a point on how important the overthrow of the guild system was, Milton Friedman, he was an economist, author of Capitalism and Freedom. He said that the overthrow of the medieval guild system was an indispensable early step in the rise of freedom in the Western world. So this is a big deal. This is a way of freeing up the economy and driving down prices so that ordinary consumers can afford them. Well, there are two ways that the legal community, in my view, has established what we would call a guild system in the current day, and that is, number one, through the American Bar Association and accreditation standards for law schools, and number two, through bar associations. There was a time in the 19th century where to be a lawyer, all you had to do was go apprentice sit underneath a lawyer and work in a lawyer's office, and after a few years you'd have your own clients and you could be off to the races. You didn't have to go to law school. You didn't have to sit for a bar exam. You didn't have to do all these things that are called barriers to entry. And these barriers to entry were implemented in the late 19th century, but primarily in the early 20th century, and they have an ugly history. They were actually instituted to prevent poor people and minorities and entrepreneurial types from becoming lawyers. It was these were things that were implemented by mostly elite men who felt threatened by competition, and so they instituted anti-competitive practice to ensure that they had a monopoly over legal services.
And I wanted to ask a brief question about this as well. We have an attorney who's on the show every other week, Marcy Foster, and she does. She has people she sets appointments up with folks, and she tries not to go to court, and she tries to settle as much as she can out of court. Is that a great way to do it?
I think that's an excellent way to do it. If you can avoid going to court, which is obviously much more costly and drawn out, then you can bring people together, in particular in settlements, because settlements represent an agreement between the parties. It's much better to have that mutual consent than it is to have some judge, or in the instance of a jury, some jury, but at any rate, an outside party determining the outcome of a dispute between two individuals. You would rather see those two individuals reach voluntary terms than have those terms imposed from the outside. The one interesting thing that I did not mention about bar associations is exactly what they are. I mean, every state has a bar association, and these are technically just corporations that the legislature has granted monopoly powers over the practice of law. So admission to practice law in the state is technically granted to the state supreme courts that govern or superintend the state bar. So when I'm saying state bar associations, I'm not talking about like the local bar association. Like, for example, I'm a member of the Lee County Bar Association and the Montgomery Bar Association. I'm not talking about those. Those are more social clubs with continuing legal education and sort of social events and those kinds of things. I'm talking about the state bars that are granted monopoly powers through state legislators. And this is different from the ABA, which is the American Bar Association, which is a nonprofit organization incorporated in Illinois that functions as a trade union for lawyers. This is what accredits law schools. So why would accrediting law school why would that be a bad thing? That would seem like a good thing. You'd seem that you want people to go through law school and be the best lawyers possible. Well, part of it is that you have a lot of very capable people of modest income who cannot afford to go to law school because law school is very expensive and they have to take out student loans. And we're actually preventing those very capable people from being able to go to law school at all because the cost is prohibitively expensive. Mm-hmm. We have unaccredited law schools. They're very, very inexpensive, and people can go to those and not take out big loans. They can work their way through, pay their way through, and often those graduates do really well in the practice of law. Mm-hmm. However, if you go to an unaccredited law school, you can typically only sit for a bar exam in the state in which that school is located. That's problem number one. So if you wanted a career that had mobility, or if you wanted to practice law in another state, you wouldn't be able to do that. The other thing is that typically accreditation, federal funding is tied to accreditation. So if you wanted to get federal loans or something like that to subsidize your education, you'd be unable to do it, with some exceptions, but you'd be unable to do it at an unaccredited law school. So all these things are set up basically to work against working class people, to prevent them from being able to enter into a profession that arguably could bring them out of their station in life. And they also... That's
true. And let me insert this.
Sure.
There are some folks who have brilliant minds, just do not have the funds to be able to do that. So
that's exactly right.
It's a huge discredit.
It is, and it's not just for those people, but ultimately at the end of the day, all of these costs have to get passed on to consumers. So for ABA accreditation, for instance, the ABA has all these requirements on technology, and rather than making sure that law schools use technology in the classroom, what really schools are doing to comply with those regulations is just buying a bunch of computer labs and things like that, and spending a lot of money on stuff that really isn't necessary. But schools spend a lot of money, and they reallocate a lot of resources toward ABA compliance. And that just drives up the cost of legal education, making it, A, harder for people to get into legal education who want to be there, and B, making basic legal practice more expensive because all these costs have to get passed on to consumers later on. So I believe that both the ABA accreditation and State Bar Association sort of work in tandem, and they work in concert to drive up the costs of legal services, all to the benefit of lawyers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. And let me bring another thought to your mind, too. You know, in the Bible, it says if you have an ought against your brother, you need to go to that brother. And then if it's not worked out, bring a witness with you. And we're a long way away from that. You know, sometimes it's about boundary lines. And then a lot of times if you're not really careful in the way it's done, then more can be out of it. Let's say, for instance, a man and a woman are getting a divorce. Okay, if they go to someone like Marcy Foster and they talk with her, a lot of times she can prevent a lot of bad will, especially when it comes to the children that are involved who didn't ask to be born. And so that's where I can see, you know, you set up a consultation and you talk with the attorney about, you know, because I've been divorced before and we use the very same attorney. A lot less fighting. Well, in fact, there was no fighting. And my son came out of it healthy, you know, because there was no fighting between the two of us. But there's just something about, you know, to try to make it work between the parties before you go to court.
I think alternative dispute resolution is an excellent means of resolving disputes. That includes both arbitration and mediation. I think all parties ought to seek mediation before they seek lawsuits, or before they at least go forward with whatever proceedings are involved in the court. There ought to be some step of mediation, and this is the trend. People in courts are tending to move toward that option because it is cheaper and because it does encourage voluntary agreement. There are some mandatory arbitration provisions that get in contracts that sometimes I have questions about, because a lot of times people will sign, say, some 30-page contract that's full of details. You know, if you sign a contract with a big company or something, and people don't read all the details, and then something happens to them, and they want to sue that big company, and then they come to find out after they sue the big company that in one little sentence in that 30-page contract full of legal jargon, they've waived their right to a jury trial, or they've committed themselves to arbitration, in which case their charges are going to be brought before an arbitrator before they can ever go before a court. So even this alternative dispute resolution system can have its downsides, but in general and on the whole, alternative dispute resolution is a cheaper, quicker way of resolving disputes, and I think it's a positive trend.
I think so, too. And let me mention this as well. I started at a company called GTE a very long time ago when they were called Contel Cellular. And this was many moons ago. It was in the corporate world. I handled government and corporate accounts. But before they hired me, I had to sign something that mentioned arbitration. In other words, they would not hire me unless I signed that. Is that legal?
Yeah. It is. I mean, if that's what you sign, I mean, they can require certain terms in a contract like that in order as a condition for your hiring. So yeah, that is legal. The interesting thing about contracts is that technically you can contract for anything under the sun. Any two parties can contract to whatever they want, and between themselves enforce the terms of that contract. The difference is that the state or the court system will not recognize some forms of contract entered into by two people. For example, contracts that are inherently immoral. For example, contracts for prostitution or something like that. The state will not enforce that contract because prostitution is illegal. Any contract to do something illegal, the state will not enforce. But in theory, contracts are voluntary transactions entered into by parties who are expected to enforce that contract as to themselves, and only as a last resort, or at least a secondary resort, are they to then turn to the court systems. And as I say, there are certain types of contracts that courts will not enforce.
Well, what about the story you hear of the two gentlemen who went to a restaurant somewhere and they made an agreement on a napkin? Both of them signed and dated it. Is that illegal?
That is totally legal. That is perfectly valid. And just as oral contracts are valid, just as a handshake is still a valid agreement. Now, there are, of course, exceptions. There's a rule regarding the statute of frauds which prevents you from making agreements on the sale of land by orally. Those have to be in writing, and so there are exceptions. There are certain types of contracts that have to be in writing, but as long as you have the objective evidence to demonstrate that a contract has been entered in good faith by two parties and you have valid consideration and all the rest, then that contract is perfectly legitimate.
Mm-hmm. I just had a text sent just a few seconds ago, and if I can figure this out. Okay, it's about poor men's patents. And I've heard of that, where someone, they have an idea for a product, and they can't afford to have it patented, but they send a letter to themselves. Have you heard of that? They send a letter to themselves, it comes back, and because it has the U.S. postage, return to sender or whatever, because it has that on there, it makes it legal. Is that true?
Well, I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm not in intellectual property law, and patent lawyers, of course, have to pass a patent bar in order to even practice patent law, so it's not within my area of expertise. My instinct is to be doubtful when I hear that story, but again, I don't know that for sure. Now, what I will say about patents is that patents themselves are also, like some of these other things we've been talking about, they are government-granted monopolies on basically they're government authorization conferring you the right, exclusive right, to exclude others from making or using that thing you've invented. And this can be, the theory behind that is that you want to incentivize people to go out and make things, and they think, well, if I have the exclusive right to something, then that will encourage me to go out and make some things for myself. But in practice, what it does is it prevents other people from being able to invent out of the product that has been invented. Because in order to use whatever patented object is in circulation, you have to pay the person holding the patent. And that, in effect, it prevents experimentation, and it prevents innovation, and it thwarts technology rather than facilitating it.
So in other words, I invented a widget, and so I have it patented, and so no one else could come in, even alter it, make it a better widget.
That's right. Yeah, but I mean, so if it were sufficiently different, then at least in theory they could patent it because the products would be two separate products. But let's say to build some kind of really cool new car. I don't know what kind of, I don't know enough about cars, but you would have to pay to use that widget in order to build that car, and so it makes the entire process of further invention get more and more expensive, so that really it's a snowball effect. And by the time you have all these patented things, what it will take to make a car is now so expensive because you have to pay off all these different patent holders in order to make something that otherwise wouldn't have been that expensive.
Yeah, I see that. I wanted to ask you, too, what your thoughts are about the Senate race so far.
Oh, wow. Well, it is very exciting, and as I think you know, my last two bosses are going against each other in a runoff. So
that's why I'm asking. I know you don't want to tell me right now.
Well, I worked for Chief Justice Roy Moore for over 3 years and have a lot of respect for him, and I worked for Luther Strange for about half a year and have a lot of respect for him as well. And I'm sort of in an unenviable position, I guess you would say. But it's fascinating for me. I never would have thought when I was working for either man that in a few years I would be sitting there watching both men going against each other in a runoff.
And let's see, any, meany, which one? Will we see?
That's right.
I know that's a situation for you. So what's new in your world? What are you planning on doing over the next few months or so? I know you've got a lot of things on your plate right now.
Oh gosh, I've got a lot of things, a lot of travel, a lot of speaking. We are holding an event with the Foundation for Economic Education here on campus, and that is on Thursday, September 21st. And it will be from roughly 8 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. So any high school students who are interested in going to that, please come. Any college students who are in the area, Montgomery area, please come. And anybody who's just interested at all, please come. We've got a long lineup of speakers. The topic is law and liberty. And we are focusing on that subject from a variety of perspectives. We've got some faculty coming up from the economics department in Troy University. We've got speakers from here at Faulkner. We've got speakers coming in from the Foundation for Economic Education in Atlanta, and should be a very interesting program. And it's really aimed at high schoolers and college students, but of course anybody is welcome to come.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Before we go, I have to talk about your book, Of Bees and Boys. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I really do. Lines from a Southern Lawyer. And you really have to get this book. It's very easy to read. And, I had it done in one day. But now I'm that type. You could give me a 500-page book, and I would not do anything until I read the book. And I love it. So Ellen Mendenhall. So you want to talk a little bit about your book and where folks can find it?
Sure, yeah. If you go to, online, Barnes & Noble, you can find it there. But online at Amazon, Amazon.com, just type Of Bees and Boys into your search bar, or my name, Allen, Allen, Mendenhall, Mendenhall. You can find it that way by putting that into Amazon, or you can go to my website, which is www.allenmendenhall.com, and all my books are link to Amazon from my website, so you can go there and check out those books, or check out some other articles and some of the TV and radio appearances I do, and of course our center is www.blackstoneandburke.com, and that's where you can find out more about the Blackstone and Burke Center for Law and Liberty.
Well, really, find this book. There's a chapter that, I love the whole thing, but I really clued in on this one. It was Power Made Perfect in Weakness.
Yeah.
So you really need to read that chapter, Power Made Perfect in Weakness, and this is Of Bees and Boys, Lines from a Southern Lawyer, with Allen Mendenhall. So, Allen, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Donna. I really appreciate coming on.
Okay, you keep me posted, okay?
I will. Thank you very much.
Have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.
That was Allen Mendenhall. Very sharp guy. Known him for a little while, and he is actually the Associate Dean at Faulkner University, Thomas Good Jones School of Law, Executive Director of the Blackstone and Burke Center for Law and Liberty, and writes some pretty good books there, Of Bees and Boys. I think you'll like that, Lines from a Southern Lawyer. And you can just go in to type his name in, Google it, and Allen Mendenhall, that's Mendenhall, and you'll be able to find the book that way as well. Okay, we're going to have to cut to a break. When we come back, we're going to have Leanna Dilbeck. She's RN, Director of the Women's Center, Marshall Medical Center South. Love that hospital. So you guys hang around. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. If you're out there looking at the clips, be very careful, please. We'll see you just very shortly.